So I wanted to ask you about some controversy during the week over the issue of immigration, certainly as far as Pauline Hanson raised it. We also saw controversial comments from Sonia Kruger, the television host, and also George Christensen from the LNP, talking about Muslim immigration and playing to a fear, if you like, and some would say ignorance about how many people are allowed into the country and the beliefs that they hold. What was your take on that?
Look, there are a couple of points to be made in terms of the comments, and it's quite a complex debate, as we know, and I think ultimately the fact that we're even having this debate is the major disappointment or issue. But parking that aside for a second, it's interesting to see that a lot of the comments being made in defense of those particular individuals has been the freedom of speech card played time and again. But at the heart of it, we're not actually debating freedom of speech. We're not saying that they don't have a right to say what they like. But I think ultimately freedom of speech, with that comes a responsibility to make informed opinions, to rely on facts, and not to really fearmonger, especially when you have such a wide platform as those individuals do. So to me, honestly, no one is trying to silence them, but if they're going to speak publicly, then they better do it in an informed manner, and they failed to do that. What ultimately this means is the consequences are they've made comments that are bigoted, they're harmful, they're obviously socially irresponsible, and really what you're doing is you're marginalizing further a community that already feels like it's on the back foot.
Rebecca, your take?
Well, I think that, the problem is that anybody who makes any criticism of Muslim immigration or of Islam is immediately attacked as an Islamophobe, as if there was some sort of irrational fear of Islam. In fact, there's nothing irrational about fearing a religion which all over the world has inspired people to terrible crimes of hatred. And it's not enough simply to look at the bigger the Muslim population. There's 5 countries with the greatest terrorism in this country this year, last year, for the last 10 years, have all been Muslim majority countries. They've all been subjected to horrific terrorism, whether it's ramming of cars, bombing, suicide bombing, down to personal things like the murder of, we saw this horrific case last week of a Pakistani girl who was murdered by her brother because he said that women shouldn't be, a woman's place was in the home, that she'd dishonoured him and so forth. And on top of that, we get constantly told, well, these are a sort of, we had Barnaby Joyce telling us, oh, these are just, every religion has a few fringe elements, a few crazies. I mean, excuse me, Saudi Arabia is the custodian of the 2 holiest sites in Islam. It lives under Sharia law. And what do we see there? Horrific persecution of people, Sharia law.
But we're talking about what's happening here in Australia.
I know, but this is why people are worried and people are sick of not being allowed to voice their fears without being accused of being bigoted. It's not bigoted, it's the facts.
Firstly, I'd like to point out that if you look at some of the victims of the crimes that have been happening globally that you just pointed out, the majority of them, for example, take Nice, one of the most recent attacks. 1/3 of those that were killed, tragically, obviously, were Muslim. So I think the essence of what you're saying is exactly the point. We're missing the point. It is no accident that we're here. This is something that has been happening. The debate has been around, Muslims painting a whole community with the same brush for the past 2 decades, maybe even more. And I think therein lies the problem. Don't take it from me. There are experts on this, experts in Islamophobia, Muslim and otherwise, experts in terrorism that will point out to you that this is something that is beyond religion. It's political, it's socioeconomic, and quite frankly, I don't know why we are constantly having this argument, fear-mongering, or this discussion, when we already have the facts and we're just not listening. Take ASIO's annual reports every single year, the past couple of years, they have been centered around Islamic extremism, so it's not like our security officials aren't taking that to heed. But I think the problem is the response and the fact that you think it's okay for people with such a wide platform, with such a privilege, like Senator Hanson or Sonia Kruger, to make these ill-informed, non-factual comments when you actually have the facts already presented, when you have a system that already puts Muslims on the back burner
briefly,
and doesn't give them
very,
the
very
platform.
quickly, we are out of time.
Okay, very quickly, but the facts are actually against you. The facts are that the more Muslims there are in a country, the more violence there is. And yes, the victims are Muslim, but also those perpetrating the crimes are the Muslims, and people are fed up with it, and they expect the government to respond all over the world, whether it's in the EU, whether it's in Germany, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in the US. Ordinary people want their government not just to acknowledge those facts, the facts that you say are ill-informed, but to do something about it.
All right, well, this is a conversation that can continue, but we will have to leave it here for now. We do value your time and your insights this morning, Sarah Saleh and Rebecca Weisser. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Privacy